Devlog July 2022. This month I've done a lot of stuff, so much stuff that I don't even know. I've not even made a preparation of all the things I'm going to do. So I'm basically just going to talk about the one thing that I really want to talk about, which is fully dynamic music. And from there on out, I will just talk about C++ rework, and for the rest, I'll just ramble on about it. And I try to remember as much stuff that I did this month, and I'll try and keep it interesting. So, but let's just start with dynamic music. So I've decided to switch from just a looping soundtrack to fully dynamic music. So you have an ambient track, then you can go into combat. And it isn't just like a simple crossfade from like ambient to combat. It's actually just like Doom did it in 2016 with basically the dynamic composition, where the music gets dynamically updated as you play the game. So that's what I did. So if I go to audio, to music clips, no, not music, I have everything is separated into separate segments. So for example, you wipe out, which is wipe them all out, so that's basically one music for one level, and I have different things that are playing. So I have an ambience loop. And then it stops. So what the dynamic music component does, so it's all handled by a dynamic music component that I attach to the player controller, which completely handles how clips should be handled, which I'll go into detail when I get into the game. So yeah, that's basically the ambient loop. And when a clip is about to end, the dynamic music component basically says like, hey, play the next clip. So it will either cue the same loop or it might cue a bridge. So that's a bridge for the loop. Or if I enter combat, it can go wait for the next beat, and then on the beat it will play the enter combat track. And once this ends, it will queue up the next one, which will be the combat loop. Okay, so let's get into the nitty gritty. So the way it works is so first of all, you can't do this with just game logic, because game logic has the tick rate of game logic will not be synchronous with the beat. So if you will either start a clip too soon or too late if you use the game logic. So what you need to use, and thankfully, first of all, I thought I wasn't even going to be able to do something like this, but thankfully Unreal does have an experimental beta version of Time Synth, which it basically hooks a dynamic music components into the sound processor. So it basically starts the music from the sound processor instead of from the game thread, which basically means you can queue up a track from the game thread. So the game thread will tell the audio processor basically, when this audio file ends, play the next file, and it will be perfectly on time, on beat. So that's basically how it works. So if I go here to my so it's beat events. So right here I have on bar event. So this plays. So this function gets called whenever a bar. So a music bar is basically. So if you have music, I need to remember. Not everyone is super into music. So if you have music, you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then those 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a bar. That's an entire bar of music. So an entire bar of music gets played. I keep track how many bars are played, and when I know that the bars are going to exceed the bar length of the current music track, I need to know that I'm handling the end of a clip, of a music clip. So once that clip ends, I basically just use this logic here to decide what is the next music clip going to be. So if the current music clip is none, then either start ambient or start combat loop. If I'm at a bridge section, then I will want to return to the loop. And that's the same for... And combat has both breaks and bridges. So a bridge is a long section of different music, of different riffs. And a break is basically a short differential. That's basically to not make it like super repetitive. It's basically just to break up the sound. And it basically happens by chance. So the longer a music has looped with the same section, the higher the chance will be that the next clip will be a break or a bridge. And it will then like automatically update the break count. So yeah. So let's go into game and see how it works. So I need to go to maps and then... Okay. Before I go into it, so I have a music init component, music init actor here. It doesn't have a identifier, so it's invisible. So I have to like find it for you here. And here I can basically write which music track I want, which can be found back, which is hard coded here. So here I have hard coded section of like E1 M1, E1 M2, and E1 M3, which are the 3 demo levels. So I can choose demo M3. Okay, so M2 is bugged. I need to figure out why, but the other two work. So it will... So it will now play a loop. If I tap out of the... I can stop. So it will play an ambient loop. You can also see the bar event. So the bar, when the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the bar. You can see that in the left, top left. I'm waiting for it to go into a bridge section. So that's the bridge. And then it goes back to the loop. So at those pillars, I've set some triggers that basically start combat music and exit combat music. So it waited for the ambient track to end, and after the ambient track ended, it went into the enter combat loop, and from the enter combat section, it goes into the combat loop. Waiting for a bridge. That was actually a break, not a bridge. Also, the air siren's going off, so either Russia decide that they have enough, or it's just first day of the month. It's first day of the month. We're safe. You probably can't hear it, but good timing. All right. So, and then obviously I can go back from combat back into a ambient. So after the combat, it's break time. No, ambient time. And that's how it exits back into the ambient loop. I also think the frame rate just dropped for some reason, but I'm not sure. So let's go to music init and then go to E1M3. So that's for the third map. And that's basically how you can switch to different music tracks. Very cool. And that's basically all I have to say about the dynamic music. It could be expanded way further. Like, let's say you get a kill, you can play like a little sound riff like Doom does with their glory kills. But I don't like glory kills because they completely ruin the flow of the game. But yeah, I could also like have, if you're on low health, you could maybe have like a small synthesizer like tin 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 tin, like that's like anxiety inducing. I don't know, but I'm not gonna do any of that because that's just too much work. And you could also have like different intensity levels. Like you could make it as crazy as you want to, but right now I just keep it at the basic. You can go from a ambient loop to a combat loop, and those loops are occasionally broken up by breaks and bridges, and that's like as I wanted. So yeah. So from this point forward, I'll just tell about everything is now C++. So I've decided to basically completely future-proof the game by moving more foundation to, no, not just more than foundation, also to just move classes to C++. So all weapons are now handled in C++. So if I go to C++ classes, public, and SKCPP classes, these are all the new classes that are just now in C++. So all the enemies are now fully C++ instead of Blueprint. All of the projectiles, all of the weapons, basically everything that has logic. I want no logic in Blueprints. So everything that has had running logic has been switched to C++. So yeah. But let's just talk about interesting stuff first, and then just talk about more and more boring stuff as this devlog goes on. So, one of the reasons why I wanted to move everything to C++ was I wanted to add dynamic damage on entities. So if I just get a caster, I'll just show it on the player first. I also removed the music. I need something that can damage me. You now get more bloody the more you get hurt. That's just something that I wanted to do, and it was very easy to do. So it's the way it works is very simple. I just have a material. So if I go to my material nodes, base shaders, I have a pawn. But I can just do this. And basically, I can just address the blood factor. And the higher the blood factor goes, the more blood appears on the pawn. This is just a base shader, and I can just move that shader. So basically, all of the pawn meshes are just inherited from that shader. So if I go to clothing, so meshes, clothing, like bodysuit female, and my bodysuit, it's inherited from the pawn two-sided with the blood. So yeah, if I go to the blood factor, there we go. So that's how I very easily was able to enable blood for all of it. So the way it works in code is very simple. When the entity is initialized, it just makes a big list of all of the materials that it has. And then whenever the entity gets damaged, it just goes through the list. If I go to, it's in pawn base. So here, so updates pawn blood factors. It just goes through the list and it just sets the scalar parameter for blood factor, and that's just how it works. It's both for the player and for enemy. So if I spawn an enemy and shoot it, oh god, no. Okay, the game will. So because I now load stuff from C++, I don't preload a lot of assets, so the game will stutter in the editor whenever I grab something, and I really hope it doesn't cause a big audio desync, but yeah. Texture limit pool over, let's ignore that. And then when it dies, it dies. I mean, I don't really have to say anything more. The more things get hurt, the more bloody they become, and that's just the way it works. Now, in the distance, it obviously uses a LOD material. So the LOD material is just a simple, what do you say? It's a simple interpolation between like a red texture and a normal texture, which if you look at it, it doesn't look too good, but hey, performance is important. I have actually lengthened the distance at which LOD kicks in. Beforehand, LOD would kick in like here, but that was just too soon, especially with the new blood thing. It just looks awful. It looks awful, so yeah. Oh yeah, hit markers. So I've also re-added, I mean, I haven't re-added them. I've also redone a lot of UI elements, which I will talk about. So yeah, hit markers. I've also re-added hit sounds. I had disabled hit sounds because the hit sound that I had was really loud, and so what I've done is I made a very light noise in a synthesizer, and that's what I now use for my hit sounds. So yeah. Let's talk about UI then. So UI has been reworked. The way UI used to work was all UI elements used to just have a tick timer that would just constantly pull for changes, which was terrible. So the way it now works for everything is it's now inherited from SK, which is my own custom widget component in C++. And that widget component basically has a SK widget update function. So I'm not going to explain it for how everything works, but for example, for health and armor, it's really simple. So if I go to my pawn class for C++, and I go to damage. So damage actor. There. Update pawn HUD, and then HUD update health. So this function will basically go to the pawn controller, and it will basically tell the player controller, hey, this entity took damage. You probably want to update the health widget with a updated like health statistic. So that's basically how that works. So I no longer like constantly pull for updates every single tick, because that's incredibly inefficient. So instead it just uses events. It uses the same for weapons. So weapons also just use tick updates. No, not updates. SK widget updates. So whenever I shoot and the ammo gets deducted from the ammo pool, I'll tell the weapon. I will tell the player controller, hey, update the weapon widget. So then that's very efficient. Yeah. I also thought about making all of these widgets in C++ for even further efficiency, but Pasmi can go fuck himself. I'm not doing that. It's just, I'm not going to turn all these widgets into C++, and just eliminating the ticks, eliminating the blueprint. There's nothing worse in Unreal than blueprint ticks. And with all blueprint ticks are now eliminated with this change. So yeah, I'm happy enough with it, and I'm not going to move this to C++. Like, forget it. It's too much work for basically barely any performance improvement. And also for architectural reasons. Like, I either move things to C++ for either software architectural reasons or for performance reasons. That's why I moved entities. I moved entities to C++. Most not really for, not really for. Oh god, come on, dude. Not really for architectural reasons, but mostly just for No, other way around. Not for performance reasons, but for our architecture. It's just nice to have entities in their own architecture, and because some entities require custom code, and I made my own promise that I would not write any more code in blueprints, which means I basically had a problem that the entities were in blueprints, but I couldn't write any specific code for specific entities. So the only thing that I could do was write the code in the base class, but that code would then only be used by a specific entity, which architectural speaking is terrible. You don't want to have code in your base class that is only used for a specific entity, for a specific child class. You want that code in the child class. So the only way that I would fix that problem is by moving all the entities into C++. So I did this for the exact same reason for projectiles and for weapons. So yeah, let's talk about something else because this gets boring. What's going to talk about? Oh yeah, crosshair customization. So crosshairs can now be customized a lot better. I basically had, for the most part, forgotten about it. So you can customize your crosshairs. So if you go to customize crosshair, you can customize it. So I've added a few extra improvements and also customization options. So yeah. You can enable the dot, so you can enable the dot and you can change its size. You can no longer change the size to really huge. I've removed most of the like really huge options, so you can more better fine tune the small options. You can of course add a cross, which I've added different distances for both the upper and the up and down points, and the left and right points can now be individually customized based on their distance that you want. So yeah, if you want like a really wide distance and like really close up and down, you can do that. You can also like change the length. So the length is changed at the same time for both, which isn't ideal, but it's fine. This would also be like, this is a huge crosshair. I prefer small crosshairs. To be fair, I think most people, what they will do is just, most will just keep the default because they can't find the option, but I think most people will just use the basic like crosshair like this. I think most people would just want that, even though this is pretty big. So like, but yeah. Another thing that you can do with is adding an X cross. Actually, before I talk about that, you can also, you can also get a T cross. So you remove the upper, cross point line, whatever, which is great for if you want to hit headshots. This upper line sometimes gets in the way of the head, so it's actually easy. I find it easier to hit headshots with a triple cross like this. A T cross. So yeah, you can also turn them. So you can turn them into a square, which is if you want that. So if you want like it's kind of like a shotgun reticle, you can do that. So yeah. Furthermore, besides having the normal cross, you can also get an X cross and then disable the normal cross, so you can have something like this, which like Halo uses. It's pretty cool. Oh yeah, customizers are here. You can also turn it, so you can have this. So what you can have is you can have your normal cross, which is huge right now. So you can have your normal cross, and then you can turn your X cross, and then you have like a shotgun outline, so you can have like a precise reticle and also a rough reticle for your like your shotgun. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, again, I think most people just gonna take the super tiny. I like the tiny T cross. So, and then just disable the X cross. So yeah. I prefer this. So yeah. That's now enabled. Okay, what else we talk about? What else? Do I have anything? No. Models, yes. So many models have been updated. So if I go to the main menu, Maps. This devlog is getting terrible. Every minute it passes. Okay, so in the customization for outfits, I've changed the assassin outfits. It no longer has a trench coat, it just now has a poncho. This is based on like the poncho that you can get for Battlefield 2042. I think that's like concept was really cool, and I think it looks a lot better and more futuristic than the weird ass trench coat. Which is like, I mean, I think it's just more fun, and it doesn't remember me of the Columbine shooter, so it's like a lot better. Yeah. Dark humor. Look how cool I am. Alright, what else? I mean, also night vision. So a lot of like little things got updated. So a lot of my old meshes had like unnecessary amounts of material. So if I go to clothes, I can go to assassin, night vision. So night vision now only has like a single material. It used to have two. It used to have a separate material for the visor and the headpiece, which was just annoying. It's just really annoying to have a ton of different materials for a mesh, because it just means you have to initialize all of those materials, and it's just garbage. Same goes for the trooper gas mask. So if I go to trooper gas mask used to be 3 separate materials, which was just awful. It's now only 1. Shit. I know why it crashed, by the way. Unreal has a really annoying, I want to call it a bug, a really annoying bug. If you have a custom level of detail mesh in your mesh, actually not even a custom, like if you have any LOD in your mesh and you re-import the mesh, it basically says, fuck it, I don't know what to do and I'm gonna crash. So you have to first remove the LOD, re-import it, and then fix the LOD. It's like really weird. So I can't go there anymore. Actually, no, it shouldn't, because I actually did fix that. I don't know. I'm not gonna click on gas mask anymore. But anyway, I fixed a lot of like weird models. Oh, the plasma rifle, of course. Weapon models. Yes, let's go quickly back to the... I just remembered something fun and interesting I can talk about. Okay, so many weapon models have been improved and finally fixed. So I finally like fixed a lot of weapon models. So first of all, the plasma rifle. The plasma rifle is now rid of its awful wooden old look, and it's now a much better, more modernized look. It now properly ejects casings when firing. And it also now properly ejects a empty end block clip when you're done firing. It is a super cool model. It is. I actually made this really quick. I finished this in like, I don't know, 5 hours or something. But I mean, it really helped that I already had like an outline of how the weapon looked like, roughly, with the old model. But yeah, the old model was terrible. I don't have any like how it looked like before, but it's vastly improved, much better. Love it. And that's basically, so that's basically the one model that really needed changing. Another thing that finally I have is that the rocket launcher finally has textures. The rocket launcher for a really long time just was untextured, and it finally has textures. The rocket launcher is also being buffed, so it used to... So the rocket launcher used to... So the way the rocket launcher differentiates from the grenade launcher is the grenade launcher has a faster fire rate but slower projectile speed, and also it has arcing projectiles, whereas the rocket launcher has a slower firing speed but has faster projectiles. Now, it turns out the difference wasn't big enough. During playtesting, I noticed that the rocket launcher was honestly useless. It had like a much slower fire rate, and its projectile speed was only like 2,000 units per second higher, which translates to 20 meters per second higher. It's now really fast. So also I buffed the fire rate. So the fire rate of the rockets are now... So the fire rate has been buffed and the projectile speed has been buffed. So it's just a much better weapon. if I can actually aim it. Okay, so what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, it also has much lower splash damage, so it doesn't splash as much as the grenade launcher. So you basically have to hit direct hits. The grenade launcher has also been buffed. It now has a higher fire rate. But yeah, and also has slower, but it also has slower projection. So the difference between the two weapons is now a lot bigger. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with pretty much all of the weapons, but I have 2 weapons that are crap. So the one weapon that I want to change, I mean, it's not necessary, but I'm probably going to change the update models. The first one is the assault rifle. The assault rifle has an old style AR, no, not even AR-15, like, I mean, it is an AR-15, like AR-15 style, technically. It has a old style M16 look, and I want to just modernize and futurize it because it's just a bit weird that you have just basically an M16 in the future, which makes no sense. So yeah, I want to update this model. Updating this model will be easy because I can just keep all the old animations, and I can also just use this model as a reference for like size and distances to everything. So the silhouette and stuff I already have. I just need to like basically remake it with a futuristic look. Another weapon that I also really want to change is the flamethrower. Flamethrower looks terrible. It's one of the, it's actually, I think it's the oldest surviving model. It's the oldest model that I still have from like the first line of weapons, and it's just terrible. So yeah, so that's weapons. What else is there to talk about? Too much. Oh my god. I think I've talked about all the interesting things. I could go on for like 30 minutes about all the little things. So there are countless of small and little bug fixes that I've done. There's just too many to name. Okay, so I think I'll end with the rough demo requirements. Yes, this is what I'm gonna end it with because it's just gonna be terrible if I continue. Wrong. Okay, so this is the rough demo. So I've basically made a list of stuff that I need to do, that I need to finish before I can release a demo. So, all right, water. I'm gonna die otherwise. So this rough demo requirements I made like 2 months ago. So basically what I do is I write everything down that needs to be fixed and needs to be done before I'm willing to release a demo for the game, which I'm very far. Like I'm very happy with how much I've done. So this is the rough demo requirements for a month ago, and this is the rough demo requirements now. It's mostly the same length, but that's basically because I added a ton of stuff during the month. I've added a ton of stuff, and then like stuff got reduced again. Improved it. Oh, I also didn't show the new pistol. Okay, let's also show the pistol. Where is it? Oh yeah, it's here in my inventory. I've also updated the pistol. The pistol now has proper textures. It used to be just a black void. Weird. It's just a lot better. Good gravings, new textures. I discovered a new texture in Substance Painter. It's called Plastic Armor Simple. And Plastic Armor Simple is by far the best material for just like, for general like weapon plastics or for armor plastics. It's just, I love it. It's just the best material. I used to just use a generic rough plastic, but that looked awful. And this, it just has very nice edge wear. So yeah, that's what I'm now using. Okay, back to what I was talking about. So yeah. So a lot of important stuff that has been done is, okay, so one thing that I really want to add is flinching animations on weapon damage. So I've already added blood effects for... I've already added blood effects like you could see with the dynamic blood shader. But I also really want to add flinching animations to just add that extra impact of shooting enemies. Because that's the thing you need to get right in first-person shooters. You need to have impact on shooting your... You have to make the thing about shooting enemies fun. And one of the things that makes shooting enemies fun is seeing them flinch in horror when you shoot them. So yeah. So yeah, that's something that still needs to be done. So that's something I still had last month, something I still have this month. Those days are just how many days I think I need to do it, which I gave up like halfway through. Rebalance the sound. So the sound is kind of crap right now. The weapon sounds, I actually don't know. I don't know. Can't remember if like the music was too loud or the music was getting drowned out by. Forget it. I need to rebalance the sound because the sound is just not balanced right now. I need to just redo everything, but that's something I can only do when I've like have everything in place, and most of the things are now in place. The only thing I need to do is like I still need to do the voice lines for robots and humans, and once I've done that, and once I can playtest the game, I can then rebalance the sounds so everything fits. Okay, next topic. Fully Magic Clouds is still in here. Improve performance. Improve performance I can only do once literally everything else is done. Make sure the player can't get stuck. Yeah, so this is a bit of a big problem. It's very easy to get out of bounds in my levels, and basically, if you miss a trigger, you're basically stuck forever. In the first level and the second level, that's not a problem because those are indoors levels, so you're always confined within 4 walls, actually 6 walls. Unfortunately, the third level is very open in the open air, and because of the very free movement that I have for my game, you can very easily skip triggers and get into positions you shouldn't be. And I need to figure out a fix for that. And I don't want to use invisible walls, so it's like, I don't know. I don't know really how to fix it. So yeah, that's a point. Make a new main menu track. So yeah, I don't like the current main menu track. I think it's too digital. I really want this combination of metal and synthesized music. So I have already started work on it. I really like the first like mock-up that I have for it. So this month I will release this last and hopefully final version for the main menu track. Yeah, that's just minor stuff. And then, so yeah. Low priority. So this has all been fixed. So blood splatters I've improved. UI rewrites in C++. It ended up not being a rewrite, but I did use a lot of C++ to trigger events. So yeah. Remake main menu animations. Oh yeah, I didn't show that off. Let's talk about that. Let's go to main menu. So I've switched the main menu animations. So the main animations used to be just a shitty loop. It used to just be a loop I made in Blender, and it just looped forever. Now it actually uses procedural animations to have this. So yeah. So the way it works is I'll quickly go to the animation folder, just to the human poses, the main unidynamic pose. Anim graph. Oh yeah, this is it. So basically the way it works is I just have these base poses. So these base poses are just look like this. So this is the pistol pose and this is the plasma rifle pose. And these are just completely static poses. So these poses are basically just selected by a pose type. So it always just gets a random. If I go to the main menu, it's in maps, main menu, save. Hopefully. So every time when the main menu reloads, it basically picks a random pose. So yeah, very fun. So yeah, it basically gets a random pose. It then has a facial expression. So right now the facial expression is always the same. I probably make some like custom facial expression that sometimes play. I add that to the main pose, and then I also have closed eyes. So yeah, so there actually is blinking, so the character will actually blink, so they won't just stare like that forever, like dead eyes. Then I have breathing. So breathing is just a brief in interpolation. So it basically just uses a it just goes through a loop with a curve. So it just has a brief curve. So this is the breathed in curve. So this is breathing in and this is breathing out, and it just loops through this curve. So yeah, very nice, very efficient, very quick. So the way breathing works is that you basically you move the torso bone backward. Oh wait, Yeah, you move the torso bone backward, and then you move all of the other bones, like the head and the shoulders, forward, so those stay stable. That's basically how you can get a custom breathing animation. Looking transform. So yeah, so the character also just looks at a random position. So I can just go into debug, and the character will just follow it. So yeah, and that's basically just how it works. So it's very easy for me to basically just make custom poses for a weapon, add those in, and all I have to do is just make the pose, add the pose in it, add it into the random list, and it works. So yeah. If I were to make actual custom animations for like every weapon that looped, I would be busy for 2 days. Instead, I got this done in half a day. So for half a day, I got basically 4 weapon poses, and that's basically just dynamically update for the character in the main menu. So yeah, very fun, very quick, very good. So blood splatters have been approved. Rocket launcher has been textured, so that's done. So a lot of the optional stuff is things that I might do. So giving the Fury hair. Oh yeah, so one thing that isn't really optional and I should really just move to low priority is adding system that prevents enemies from falling off ledges. Enemies have a tendency to fall off ledges, which is a big problem in level 3. And I need to find out a way that I can prevent the AI from falling off ledges. Now, falling off edges isn't that big of a problem. It doesn't happen that much. The big problem is that enemies can jump at you. And sometimes what happens is an enemy jumps, and then another enemy jumps behind it, and the enemy behind the jumping enemy is faster than the other enemy. So the enemy will collide mid-air with the enemy, and then they just fall straight into the void. So yeah, that's a problem. And yeah, I mean, you can pause the video and read stuff yourself, what I still want to do. That's just, I'm gonna end it here. It's just too much. I have work to do. I need to have lunch. Goodbye.